Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Purple Politics, hosted by political expert and commentator Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. Join us to discuss the most important issues affecting our nation with fresh, balanced, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Purple Politics starts right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Purple Politics. I am your hostess, Alina Gonzalez-Dockery, and I'm thrilled to be here. But first of all, it is not the Groundhog's Day movie, or is it? Yes, we are reliving 2020 once again, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Nikki Haley exits the Republican presidential race. Nikki Haley, the first significant contender to challenge Donald Trump for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination, announced the suspension of her campaign after poor showings in most of this year's nominating contests. Now, I will applaud her because she is the first female presidential candidate to win two primaries. She won the DC primary and the primary in Vermont. So thank you, Nikki. You have trailblazed something for young women to look up to, because we do have the first female presidential candidate winning a primary. But even this, in spite of her continuing the fight, her being true to her values, and probably getting a little bit into the swampiness of mudslinging, she had to suspend her campaign due to the overwhelming support for Trump and by the MAGA faithful. Trump solidified his position as the GOP frontrunner for a third consecutive presidential election. And despite Haley's initial hopes to give voice to those wary of Trump's candidacy within the party, alas, for those that are moderates, for those that are exhausted, and it's not Trump delusion, it is, or derangement as they call it, it's exhaustion. She was the last vestige of hope within the Republican Party to give voice for those that feel that they have been disenfranchised by a political party that seems to be more focused on Trump than on the actual constituents that he and the Republican committee are supposed to serve. While declining to immediately endorse Trump, Haley's campaign highlighted their increasingly bitter exchanges in recent weeks, with Haley raising concerns about Trump's electoral viability and legal troubles, while Trump dismissed her with derogatory remarks, which, as a female, they are derogatory, they're misogynistic, and should not be allowed, especially a man who was once very proud of having raised a daughter that is very strong as an entrepreneur, CEO, and was once one of his aides and advisors in the White House. Haley's campaign tapped into a significant segment of the Republican Party who is wary of Trump's candidacy, and particularly among moderate and suburban voters. And she also tapped into the independent voice, those independent, non-party affiliated that feel like they don't have a home in either party. And I, for one, can tell you, I'm not sure if I have a home in the Republican Party. You know, we have now seen such a divisiveness, and some people in the mainstream media will say, well, Trump is funny. Trump is, oh, that's just Trump being bombastic and his typical rhetoric. His rhetoric is very unclassy. Let's face it, calling a woman bird brain and then to have his little followers continuing to say bird brain, that's derogatory. That goes back to the terms when women were seen as chattel, when women were not seen as really equal citizens. I do have a problem with that. I will also say that Haley, I felt like missed a huge boat in that when she was first among the many men, the single sole female in the trenches going for the GOP primary from the first debate, she had something that was so unique. And that uniqueness was that she preached about compassion and consensus and decorum. And honestly, she appealed so much to the female voters, those, and I'm not even going to say suburban female voters. I mean, just educated female voters that say, you know what, I like what she's saying. She wants to build coalitions, she wants to build collaboration. I mean, in a time where we're seeing Senator Seamus saying that she no longer is going to be going for reelection because, quote, I chose civility, understanding, listening, working together to get stuff done. When we have a senator who had to go independent because of the vitriol that her party, the Democratic Progressive Party, threw onto her, where are we? So the real question, the real challenge, as Haley stated in her speech, is that Trump has to build the consensus within the Republican Party. He has to show to those of us, which was about 30 to 40% of those that were voting, that he needs to win them over. Now, there are some voters that said that they will hold their nose and they will vote for Trump. But there's still some, like many of her donors, that have a huge question mark and are determining whether or not they should be looking to another party. And, though people don't, the mainstream media doesn't want to state this, there is another candidate that's very viable, and that is RFK Jr. And I'm curious to see how RFK Jr. is going to capitalize on this disenfranchised percentage of few. And it wasn't even few, 30%. So it's really going to be interesting. But now we are entering into Groundhog Day, the 2020 election coming forward in 2024, where the main primaries are Biden and Trump. To Nikki Haley, thank you. And I congratulate you, for you had courage that most do not have to run an election when your husband is deployed, to deal with the menacing, vitriolic, and derogatory terms that were thrown at you. I applaud you. And as a woman, I applaud you for trailblazing and making it really seem tangible for young women and women everywhere to know that we can stand up and we do have the courage and we can go for our dreams of being elected officials. So kudos. Now, turning to Trump, Trump had a major victory. The United States Supreme Court unanimously restored Trump to the 2024 presidential primary ballots and general election ballots, if you will, of states like Colorado and Illinois. The United States Supreme Court ruled in favor of Donald Trump, allowing his name to appear on the 2024 presidential primary ballots, despite state efforts to hold him accountable for his role in the Capitol riot. The justices concluded the states lacked the authority to exclude presidential candidates from the ballots based on the post-Civil War provision of the 14th Amendment, asserting that such power resides with Congress and Congress alone. Now, let's stress, this was a 9-0 decision. That is so important. And as Justice Barrett stated in her concurring opinion, that is really what needs to be focused on. This was a 9-0 unanimous decision that the states do not have the authority to basically choose a president for the rest of the United States. That's what it basically comes down to. But more importantly, that this goes beyond politics, that the Supreme Court, which is supposed to be blind to politics, and regardless of how much people in the media are trying to say that they're politicized and it's the conservatives and it's the liberals, things, yes, fewer than 5% of the cases heard by the United States are on those 6-3 or 5-4 votes, but the vast majority are either unanimous or majority. This is also important to state that this was the right decision. This is not a blow to democracy. This is not a blow to the Constitution. This is, in fact, And it's not a vindication of Trump, no matter how people want to swing it. What it is basically stating that rightfully, to determine who is eligible for the presidential candidacy and election is in the hands of Congress. It is a federal purview. But this is the first time since 2000, making history again, since the Al Gore versus George W. Bush election debacle. And I'll tell you, that was a debacle. I remember I was on my honeymoon at that time. In that we didn't know who was president, hanging chads and everything like that. For the first time since 2000, the United States Supreme Court had to wade into the waters of politics and deal with a presidential election. Again, this underscores the legal battles involving Trump, and there will be more decisions by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court still has pending before them the appeal on whether President Trump has absolute immunity for the actions leading up to Jan 6 and the allegations within the Washington, D.C. case against him. Some will still state that this is a travesty because those 3 justices appointed by Trump was tilted in favor. But again, it was a 9-0. Yes, there may have been differing little views, but the one thing is to note that justice was served, our Constitution was upheld, and there was unanimous decision. And this maybe can go further. Let's take this as an example of how we can come together. We can set aside the vitriol and the divisiveness of the party. And I'm going to look at Democrats as well as Republicans. Let's set aside the craziness, the anti-Biden craziness and the Trump derangement craziness. And I can tell you, I am tired. Absolutely tired. And I'm also an angry white woman right now. And I will say that because I'm seeing that nothing seems to be going forward. There hasn't been any type of, I don't know reconciliation by Trump to the others. So I'm hopeful that Trump, now that Haley dropped out, will actually be truthful and try to bring that olive branch. But if anything, if it continues to be what is the norm, we will see what further comes out. But definitely be on the watch. We have the United States Supreme Court determining the immunity challenge. We still have the Fani Willis decision as to whether there's a conflict of interest there, which could be potentially a huger win for Trump. Because if Fani is determined to be a conflict of interest and she has to remove herself, that means her whole office is removed from the case, and then it's up to the state of Georgia to appoint another prosecutor in a different county to take over the case, or whether they will do so. But we have a lot more legal battles to go through, and and I will say this, Teflon Trump, it seems to be true. But anyway, we're going to cut to a quick break, and we're going to go in all things groundhog of 2024 election, general election. So tune right back in.
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new CareWatch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The CareWatch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, maturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your Care Watch right now. Operators are standing by.
Are you ready to shake up the world of health with me? Welcome to Disruptive Health, where we are flipping the script on traditional wellness. I'm Dr. Denise Brown, and on this show, we are diving deep into the latest trends and breakthroughs in health and wellness. Whether you're curious about nutrition, exploring new therapies, or just want to live your best life, Disruptive Health is your guide. Don't miss Disruptive Health, coming soon to Now Media TV.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Divided horizons. Trump versus Biden, a campaign rematch saga. With a rematch of their closely contested 2020 campaign looming after Super Tuesday, both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are rolling out their strategies for the upcoming presidential matchup. Both campaigns are focusing their efforts on 7 battleground states, 5 of which flipped from Trump to Biden in 2016. Biden's re-election campaign is emphasizing early hiring and voter targeting, while Trump's campaign is finalizing a takeover, some would say hostile, but a takeover of the Republican National Committee and expanding its field operations. Biden and Trump are planning events in Georgia, reflecting their differing approaches to campaigning. Biden will be focusing on Metro Atlanta, targeting the diverse population and primarily African-American population, while Trump will visit rural areas and the district of Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Their campaign rhetoric also diverges, with Biden criticizing Trump's focus on revenge and retribution, and Trump highlighting issues like inflation, immigration, and foreign conflicts. Biden's campaign is building a robust ground game in battleground states, leveraging existing volunteer networks from the 2020 and 22 elections. The campaign plans to expand its organizing teams and prioritize door knocking and phone banking, aiming for quality voter contact over quantity. They are also emphasizing outreach in Hispanic communities, particularly in states like Arizona. This is very important considering that Trump has been improving from 2016 to 2020. And even in the polls, it shows him having more Latin American voters as well as African American voters, particularly male African American voters. He's gaining more ground with them. Meanwhile, Trump's campaign, Trump, focusing on taking control of the RNC, trying to install his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, as a co-chair of the RNC, and catching up to Biden's fundraising and organizing efforts. Now, Biden's reported that he has about $100 million in his war chest. Trump's war chest is not that deep, and the RNC is even less. It's less than $10 million. And right now, the critical aspect for Trump's campaign is to gather as much donor dollars as possible to go tit for tat. Now, some will say, and it will be shown through the campaign reporting stuff, much of Trump's campaign dollars from these super PACs and such have been going to pay his legal bills, as he has been amassing. We're talking tens upon tens of millions of dollars in legal bills with everything, whether it's rightfully so or not, unjust or just. And one of the main keys and criticisms against Nikki Haley for staying in so long is some are saying that she spent, I think it was over $100 million just for the Super Tuesday alone. And some of the biggest criticisms against Nikki Haley was that by her staying in the election so long and not bowing out after New Hampshire, that she wasted money that could have gone to Trump. Now, it's being reported, though, that most of the super donors that supported Nikki Haley, the super PACs that went behind her and were funding her, are stating that they are not readily eager to donate to the @Real Donald Trump campaign fund. In fact, they are so weary of the Trump effect and the MAGA vitriol that some of those major donors are stating that rather than donating to the presidential campaign, that they will donate instead and focus on the GOP Senate and House of Representative elections around the country. This is a huge blow to Trump. Trump has been trying to court the likes of Elon Musk to fund his campaign as well, though Elon has stated on X, formerly known as Twitter, that he would not be donating to either presidential campaign. Despite being outspent by Democrats, Trump's campaign remains confident. And I will say this, Trump has He is amazing what he has been able to conjure with every legal battle, every legal win, every indictment. Ever since the first indictment came down, Trump has utilized his court battles as a campaign event. And it has given him more and more political power in a way, or political, I don't know what the word, like revenue. Because the more he's on TV with this, the more he has little wins, the more the people are seeing that he is being persecuted, or they're actually, he keeps gaining more in the polls with every legal battle. So yes, he needs the money. Yes, he's trying to fight against a very large war chest on the Biden side, but also he is a master of PR and utilizing the news media to his favor with all of these court battles. And speaking of court battles, the Georgia case against Trump is taking a huge hit as Fani Willis fights disqualification. In the legal saga surrounding the election interference charges against former President Donald Trump in Georgia, the case brought by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has encountered significant challenges. While Willis may prevail in an effort to disqualify her from the case, the ethics scandal surrounding it has cast a shadow over her prosecution, potentially hindering her ability to secure guilty pleas from the remaining defendants. Now, Willis is, the controversy surrounding Willis is that she hired her romantic paramour, Nathan Wade, who was at the time married and does not have RICO experience, as her top deputy on the case. And she is paying him 2 to 3 times more than the other prosecutors. And then, so one of the defendants, co-defendants of Trump, brought this to the attention of the court, stating there is a clear conflict of interest, that she is financially benefiting from this based on the trips and the affair, but also that there is a clear conflict of interest in what she has decided. And more evidence is coming about how Fani Willis had meetings with Vice President Harris, as well as the White House, even prior to, or just prior to, filing the indictment against Trump. The scrutiny surrounding Willis's actions extends beyond the courtroom, with complaints filed with the Fulton County Board of Ethics and ongoing legislative efforts to address prosecutorial conduct. Nathan Wade's substantial earnings from the case also raises questions about his qualifications and the nature of his relationship with Willis. Regardless of what happens, which we are now waiting, the judge has now taken this under advisement. What that means is that he has heard all of the evidence, he has heard the closing argument, and he has taken everything under advisement. We'll be researching ethical rules, probably the bar regulations, plus case law and statutes, and will render a decision within 2 weeks. This also has a potential effect on this case because this case was seen to be going forward and would be tried in May. Well, now this will further delay this case, and the potential of this case actually, especially if the court finds that there is a conflict of interest and that whether he finds Fannie did something ethically incorrect, I don't know if he would do that, but he may say to side on the air of caution and in respect of justice, it would be best due to the inferences of unethical behavior and this conflict. He may determine that Fannie Willis's office is disqualified from prosecuting this case, which then will cause everything to start all over again for another prosecutorial office to jump in, look over things. So this will then affect the timing of the trial. So again, it's like Trump has Teflon all over him, because with every step forward, with every action that any of these prosecutors, whether they're Democratic prosecutors, liberal prosecutors, whatever you want to call it, for every case, he comes out getting more publicity, getting more followers, getting more supporters, and then he has these little wins that are amounting to Donald J. Trump, stating and also furthering his arguments that he's being prosecuted unfairly. Much ado in the legal world, I will say, but it will be very interesting. So we will be keeping watch for the judge's decision to come out and the implications on the election and whether anybody is going to be able to get in a shot at Trump. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break, and then we will be discussing more general election news. Tune right back.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure, and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock-bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Now that Trump has crushed his fellow candidates in the Republican primary, and Nikki Haley has finally stepped down and suspended her campaign. The next question, or really the next point of interest, is how Trump's crushing primary triumph is masking the quiet weaknesses within his own campaign and electability. So we can't refute. Donald Trump had a hugely impressive primary victories. I mean, it was victory after victory after victory, including recent wins that pushed Nikki Haley out of the race, have overshadowed his persistent challenges with key voter groups that cost him the 2020 election. Despite his strong showing in primaries, Trump continues to struggle with suburban, moderate, and independent voters, as well as Republicans who supported Biden in the previous election. And I know many. I will say that. Trump's loss in suburban precincts in states like Virginia and narrow margins in educated and affluent suburbs highlight his ongoing difficulty in broadening his support base. This poses significant questions about his strategy to win over these crucial voters in the lead up to the general election. While Trump appears unfazed by these challenges and focuses on rallying his base, his inability to attract broader support threatens the Republican Party's chances of reclaiming the presidency. Polls indicate that Haley might have been a stronger candidate for November, emphasizing Trump's failure to expand his appeal beyond his core supporters. Despite Trump's electoral successes and strong support from Republicans, concerns persist about his personality and temperament, which continue to deter some voters, particularly independents and moderate Republicans. Raise of hands. Anyone? This dynamic underscores the importance of appealing to a broader spectrum of voters beyond the MAGA base. You have to look at how the registered Democratic voters make up about 28 to 32% of registered voters. Republican registered voters are 28%. There is a huge gap of 40-some% that are non-party, independent, or other party affiliated. That's where you have to go. And in fact, the same issue goes to Biden, because Biden is having a lot of questions from his base, and he's losing support from his base because many think he's too old, he's feeble, he doesn't have the ability to continue to do another term. But while Trump is maintaining his overwhelming support, and Biden has what I will say, Democrats step in line. But both of them facing these challenges. And it's not because they are, those that are undecided, those that are on the sidelines saying, what do I do? They're not necessarily ignoring what's going on. It's almost impossible to ignore. I mean, you jump on any type of social media, internet, TV, this is always in our face. I mean, we are now in the thrust of the longest general election period in history. And we also, the two most viable candidates, and I'm not of the two parties, the Democrat and Republican parties, are also the oldest candidates we've ever had in history. We're dealing with old and older. So, which is ironically more of a detriment for Biden than for Trump. But while Trump is still maintaining his MAGA maniacs, and many Republicans will probably hold their nose and go with the Republican Party and just go straight party line. The real issue, too, is not only is he going to be able to sway voters that are independents, but sway female voters. And where it's really going to be instrumental for him is, for the first time, we have an election with an incumbent and an incumbent. They're both termed out in 4 years. 4 years, they're termed out. So the real question is, who is Trump's VP candidate? Because I think, or in my opinion, whoever Trump chooses as his vice presidential candidate is going to be the one that is going to show where is the future of the Republican Party going. Is this going to be looking for not just these 4 years, but really 12 years? Because the Republicans are looking to having a strong vice presidential candidate that will be able to springboard into their presidential election. Also, that vice presidential candidate is going to be key to being able to gather up, if you will, and soothe over those disenfranchised Republicans as well as those moderate right-leaning independents. So Donald Trump does have a hill or a mountain to there, as well as Biden. And then the other thing is we still have, it was amazing when RFK, before we got into all the craziness of the primaries and such, and it's just Biden and Donald Trump, RFK got a lot of airtime from mainstream media because they wanted to hear who this guy was, who he is. He's still very viable. He's actually attracting a lot of pursuant to the polls, younger voters. So the real question is, will he be jumping in on this and getting the disenfranchised Democrats that Biden seems to be losing left and right? And then, of course, there's the question is Biden even healthy enough to be able to go up against for another round against Trump? This is all to be seen. And yes, this is going to be a long general election. So put on your waders. We got to wade through the muck. We're going to be wading through the mud, and we're going to see how this goes. But if anything, it should be entertaining. That's what we hope. And my hope is that all registered voters and those that are about to become 18 register to vote, because that is the most important power that we individual people have. Maybe we can't go toe-to-toe with corporate money and super PAC money, but the one thing we have is our vote. And if enough of us go out there and let our voices be heard, maybe, just maybe, these two candidates or RFK, if he were to be in the mix, will hear us and they start looking at bringing back common sense to our government and also bringing back decorum. So enough about Biden and Trump. Let's talk about Alabama. Had to do a little Southern there. So if you recall, the Alabama Supreme Court determined that life begins upon conception and struck a huge blow to in vitro fertilization, in that they even stated that it could only be one embryo at one time, regardless of the viability of the pregnancy, or even if it's going. And some of my faithful viewers will remember I kind of went on a rant because I personally went through that process, and it is arduous. Well, Alabama governor and their legislatures, kudos and applauds. Alabama governor signs legislation protecting in vitro fertilization providers from legal liability into law. Alabama's governor, Kay Ivey, swiftly signed the legislation into law to protect doctors from potential legal liability concerning IVF services in the state. The move came in response to the Supreme Court's ruling equating frozen embryos to children, which led to the halting of IVF services at some of Alabama's largest fertility clinics. Lawmakers, particularly Republicans, backed the immunity proposal to address the concerns of these clinics, opting for a short-term solution without delving into the legal status of embryos created in IVF labs. The Alabama Supreme Court's ruling treated frozen embryos as children, as I just stated, allowing couples whose embryos were destroyed in an accident to pursue wrongful death lawsuits. The decision prompted major IVF providers to pause services, sparking outcry among patients and doctors. Now, there was huge backlash after the Supreme Court on both sides. This is a bipartisan legislation. Democrats, Republicans, independents all came together saying, absolutely not, this is not wrong. And yes, I understand there's the pro-choice versus pro-life, but this seriously impacted the poor, the families and the women that were going through, a very long, emotional, physical, psychological process, and they needed to protect the interests. The passage of this law was met with relief, And it's also to the much appreciation of those advocating for this solution. Clinics such as Alabama Fertility expressed their readiness to resume IVF services immediately after the law's enactment. Patients like Liz Goldman, whose fertility treatments were interrupted, expressed gratitude for the swift action by lawmakers, which alleviated the stress they experienced during the hiatus. However, not all lawmakers supported the bill. Republican Senator Larry Stutz, an obstetrician, criticized it for prioritizing providers over patients and placing a monetary value on human life. House Democrats proposed legislation to clarify that a human embryo outside a uterus cannot be considered an unborn child or a human being under state law. But Republicans, of course, they wouldn't go for that. They wouldn't going to vote for that. And honestly, that does make sense. Because let's face it, when you have just a little itty bitty embryo outside the uterus, it cannot survive. It does not grow unless it's implanted. And even when you go through IVF and you implant those embryos, it does not guarantee that they will implant into the uterus and be able to have a viable pregnancy. This controversy surrounding the IVF in Alabama reflects broader debates over reproductive rights and the legal status of embryos. The tension between protecting IVF services and addressing concerns about the legal recognition of embryos underscores the challenges faced by policymakers in navigating complex ethical and scientific issues, but also highlights the battles that will be debated and argued during this election process, whether you're a senatorial candidate or presidential or a U.S. representative. We at Purple Politics, I am thrilled that they did something to protect the rights of women to be able to continue with their IVF treatments. This was the right call, and I pray that maybe more leaders, more elected officials will show the common sense that this legislation has done and start doing what's right for all and not just for what the political policies of their party state or dictate. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break and we will discuss the State of the Union and its address. Tune in.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Abortion, infrastructure, the economy, tax fairness, all things highlighted by Biden in his State of the Union address. In the State of the Union address, President Biden is expected to focus on several key issues, including the economy, tax fairness, prescription drug prices, reproductive rights, his unity agenda, housing affordability, tackling junk fees, and expanding small business opportunities and environmental concerns. I love the unity agenda because if everybody recalls that at his inauguration, he stated he was the unity president, but yet he will defile, besmirch, and claim that a certain segment of supporters of Trump are domestic terrorists and such. But I digress because he is not the unity president. Unfortunately, we have a president that has gone so far to the left, even though he campaigns as a moderate. And that's what he's going to be doing. That's what we can expect. Biden's going to come out and paint himself as the moderate, great president. He's the unifier and such, but his actions in the past have not shown that. One thing is for sure is that there will be a lot of people tuning in just to see how Biden comports himself. Is he going to lose track of his words? Is he going to trip? Is he going to foible? Is he going to mumble? Is he going to say that the president of Mexico is in Egypt or the president of Egypt is Mexico? These are all the questions. And the reality is the State of the Union is a snooze fest most of the time. It is. But one thing is for sure, people are going to be tuning in just to assess his ability and see if he is cognitively and physically able to conduct himself as a president. One major highlight will be Biden's Investing in American plan, which aims to create high-paying union jobs, invest in infrastructure, and promote green energy projects across the nation. This plan includes significant funding for public projects and private sector investments, particularly in Pennsylvania, with a focus on improving infrastructure and education. Now, that comes to also the red line is that it has been to a detriment to the oil and gas industry, and also what many of Biden's climate legislation or pushes or executive orders was also what prompted those the unions, the auto union workers, protesting and striking last year because of the mandate for electric cars to be the norm by, I believe it was 2030. Even though, hey, we're supposed to be able to have free consumership in here. I have issues on both sides, so just roll with me, people. One of the things he's really going to be highlighting is his economic belief, because the one thing is for certain is that when during the first 3 years, really, there was always this doom and gloom that inflation, recession. Now we are having severe inflation. Anybody who goes grocery shopping, even though now, mind you, inflation rates do not take into account gas prices or groceries. But one thing is for certain, those grocery prices have gone skyrocketing. And we're still looking at very steep gas prices. But inflation is still there. But the one thing that Biden has been able to manage, or his administration has been able to manage, is economic growth. We have seen unemployment has dropped. It is now, again, it's not the lowest it's ever been, but it's definitely much lower, especially since the reopening of businesses after much of the shutdown and lockdowns of many states going well into 2021, some into 2022. We've also seen a bipartisan tax bill which Biden signed, that allows for the child tax credit and stuff. So these are the things that Biden is going to be highlighting. Biden's going to be highlighting that tax fairness legislation. He's also going to be highlighting his efforts to bring back programs to assist those in need by reducing living costs for lower middle income families. Biden has pledged not to increase taxes on those under 400,000. I will tell you, as an individual under 400,000, but as an entrepreneur, that is still, they're still being hit. He may not have raised the taxes, but we are getting tax penalized, especially those that are self-employed. But he continues to rail against the wealthy and the corporate sector, saying that they need to pay their fair share. Now, one of the things is he could always try to eliminate more of the corporate tax breaks and make the corporations pay actually some taxes towards it. But that is still an uphill battle, especially when this most recent tax legislation codified some of the very many tax breaks that were instituted during Trump's years. Biden will also likely tout his administration's achievements in reducing healthcare costs, particularly through the Inflation Reduction Act, which limits out-of-pocket expenses for Medicare beneficiaries. The act also empowers the government to negotiate drug prices directly with manufacturers, potentially leading to significant savings for consumers. This is all dependent on Congress being able to work together and actually pass a bill. But this is what he's highlighting. This State of the Union address is not necessarily like the ones in the past. He is going to be highlighting what he projects his next 4 years will be. There's going to be some significant issues with that. He will, but again, this is his speech. It'll be 75 minutes of him glorifying himself and also bashing Trump. He is going to further that, and this is what is one of the key focuses of the State of the Union, is how he can separate himself from Trump. And he's also going to be demonizing the reversal of Roe v. Wade and stating that Congress needs to codify abortion rights and such. So you're going to see a lot of pie in the sky type of things. He is going to try to separate himself, demonize Trump for being vitriolic and revengeful and such, and that he is going to try to do the unity agenda. The reality, though, is, sorry, Joe, you have not been unifying. If anything, your administration has further divided this country even more so. I put some blame on Trump. I will put blame on Biden. Biden has divided this country even more so. When you have a president of these United States of America that is representing all citizens of the United States of America and stating that everything is to be blamed on Trump and his MAGA supporters, and his MAGA supporters are scum, and his MAGA supporters are domestic terrorists, that is not unifying. Also, trying to put all the blame on Republicans when he himself has not put forth any attempts to be able to come to some type of reconciliation and trying to build bipartisan work is another downfall on Biden. And the Democrats did this game too. So let's be clear. When the Democrats were in control of Congress, they would not do anything when there was a Republican. This is dating back to W times. Okay, we're talking about George W. Bush. They wouldn't do anything. And they especially wouldn't do anything with Trump unless Trump did what he did, which was allow the budget to fail, things like that. And then, of course, I mean, you know, Biden likes to quote the Cookie Monster and saying that you're getting smaller cookies for the same amount, or that when you buy a bag of chips, it has less in it for more money. So he's going to be announcing his initiatives to crack down on unfair pricing practices such as junk fees, which cost consumers billions annually. He will also emphasize the importance of small businesses in driving economic. In a nutshell, he's going to go back to playing that he's a moderate Democrat and going and trying to appeal to that the Democratic Party, who I would say probably truthfully was this at some point, but has lost their way, just like I feel the Republican Party has lost their way. You know, the Democrats used to be the party of the working class and of the middle class. They have. Now the Republicans are the ones who are out there and fighting the fight for the rural community, the farmers, the middle class, and the workers. I mean, it's So Biden now is going to don on his moderate coat, showing that he's just a good old guy, Grandpa Joe, and that he can unify this country. He had 4 years, 3 years, effectively. And what his administration has done is further divide this country. His administration has taken such an extreme position on so many really social issues that have driven even parents to losing their rights. This administration under Joe Biden has also overseen 2 wars that have broken out, Ukraine and Israel. And this administration, Biden now is on an apology tour and trying to force Israel, who was attacked, who had war engaged against them. He is now playing the political game, trying to secure the Middle Eastern Arabic community's vote by underscoring the Israel at every chance. Yes, the Israeli war is still going on. And yes, it has intensified that Hezbollah has been just yesterday, I think, was 100 rockets went into the northern end. People are fleeing that area. And maybe it's not newsworthy because Israel has their defense systems that are very good, the Iron Dome. But one thing is for sure, Biden has to deal with, he wants to say he's a unifier. You know what? You haven't done it. You better prove it. 2, you need to come to terms with the fact that you have 2 debacles out there in the European front and the Middle Eastern front. And he has to figure out how he's going to create a bipartisan movement going forward. When you have senators that would have probably caucused with Democrats more and more that are leaving because progressives will not tolerate even those that want to unify. So I am Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. Thank you so much for tuning in to Purple Politics, where we will be talking and looking into everything that's general elections, looking into also the congressional elections, which will be taking place this year as well. Because that is, I mean, let's face it, you have a very, very slim control of the Senate and you have a slim control over the Republican or the House of Representatives. Anything can happen. I want to thank you again for tuning in. I want to wish you a great weekend, and please come back next week and we'll talk more politics.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Are you ready to shake up the world of health with me? Welcome to Disruptive Health, where we are flipping the script on traditional wellness. I'm Dr. Denise Brown, and on this show, we are diving deep into the latest trends and breakthroughs in health and wellness. Whether you're curious about nutrition, exploring new therapies, or just want to live your best life, Disruptive Health is your guide. Don't miss Disruptive Health, coming soon to Now Media TV.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company that time you spend with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.